I'm Peter Shin, President of Pro-Life Unity and Director of Cherish Life Ministries, a call to the church. With our organizations, we are calling for the end of abortion around the world. With Pro-Life Unity, we pray that organizations come together in our common cause and put aside our differences so that we can end this scourge, this killing of the innocents that's happening around this world. And with Cherish Life Ministries, it's a call to the church that, you pastors are standing in front of your congregations, and there are women and men out there who are trying to make decisions, and you're not helping them make the right decisions. So we are calling on the church to stand up on this issue. We're at the United States Capitol today to talk about what happened this week as far as the tax bill and Planned Parenthood and the funding, or I should say, the lack of funding. Planned Parenthood is the largest abortion provider in this country, providing 910 abortions per day. Even though the pro-abortion people who counter us say that the statistics that are often brought up aren't correct as far as the percentage of the money that Planned Parenthood makes on abortions, it doesn't matter. The point is they provide 910 abortions per day in this country. In addition to that, the majority of America doesn't even want to fund abortions. And Planned Parenthood gets approximately $350 million per year from taxpayer money. They're close to $1 billion organization. This week, the House presented a tax bill, which in the end, as some people have said, is not even going to save $350 million, let alone $38 billion, which is what they had talked about and proposed. But what they punted was the Planned Parenthood issue. And they kicked that one down the road by putting it to the Senate. And when they gave it to the Senate and said, okay, well, agree with our bill, and we will put this Planned Parenthood issue in your court so that you can deal with it, what that was really saying was, we know Planned Parenthood is off the table. And let's face the reality that the Democrats get a large percentage of their funding from Planned Parenthood, and they're not going to allow this one to go down easily. The Republicans know that, and I think they're scared of it. And even though they brought it up and acted strong on this issue, when it came down to it, they passed the issue on to the Senate, which of course the Senate is majority rule for the Democrats, and they knew it would never go through. So of course, here we are. Planned Parenthood is still funded, as they will be tomorrow and the next day from taxpayer funds. Now, we're not here just to talk about the ending of the funding for Planned Parenthood. We're here to talk about the ending of abortion in this country. So we'll say, put a spine on when it comes to defunding this issue, but also get strong when it comes time to say, let's end abortion. That's the message that we really want to hear from our representatives, is let's end abortion. This nonsense about health care is a distraction. Planned Parenthood does not provide health care for women in this country. They don't do mammograms. They do abortion. They do birth control. We need to stand up against this massive organization which has their tentacles in every part of our government, our school systems. Everywhere we turn, Planned Parenthood is there affecting what's happening in this country. It's time for representatives to take a stand. We saw not too long ago there was an issue with Wisconsin, and in Wisconsin they had a collective bargaining issue that they were debating. And the Republicans stood up against this, and they said, we're going to take collective bargaining out of this because it's ruining our state. And what did the Democrat representatives do? They ran to Illinois. And they said, we're not coming back until you deal with this issue and you put collective bargaining back in. Well, in the end, they lost. And it was a Republican win. But that's not the point. The point is that he stood on principle. I want to see Republicans stand on principle. I want to see Republicans stand on these stairs of this United States Capitol and say, we're not going to do anything in this government anymore until we end abortion in this country. We need to see strength from our representatives. Why do we talk to these people and they say to us that abortion is the killing of innocent human beings, that it's horrible for this country, that it's horrible for the women who suffer in various ways after they've had these abortions, and then they're not doing anything to end abortion. Putting up token bills and not doing anything about them is not ending abortion. Representatives around this country in all 50 states are not doing anything to end abortion. They're not standing up and saying, we want this thing to stop now, and we demand that it stop now. All these side issues and side bills and everything can do little bits and pieces, but in the end, abortion is going to be here again tomorrow, and another 3,500 people are going to die every single day until we take this issue seriously enough to where we demand an end to it. So what we're here to say today is that as far as this funding of abortion goes, it came down to the fact that what we got was federal funding for abortions in Washington, D.C. was banned. Something that Barack Obama put into place right after he was elected. And that was crumbs compared to the entire loaf of what's happening. We demand the whole loaf. Let's end the funding of Planned Parenthood, and let's end abortion in this country.
My name is Rachel Sargent, and I'm Vice President of Pro-Life Unity. And we're here today in front of the Capitol, the day after the Senate voted to not defund Planned Parenthood. And it's a curious thing because, the day before, or this week, they allowed to defund abortions in D.C. So I think that's sort of an admission, actually, of, well, maybe we should defund abortions, from federally, from the government. Defunding abortion still allows abortion to continue, but at least our tax dollars are not going towards this horrific act. While we are thrilled that DC no longer receives government funding for abortion, we also want the complete defunding of Planned Parenthood all around the country. And so we just don't want the morsels of DC. That's an admission that President Obama made, that yes, we should defund abortion in DC, but that's just not enough. We really want all of America to be defunded on the issue of abortion. We want Planned Parenthood to be defunded because all they do is provide abortion. They don't provide health care. That's a myth. And if people keep on saying it, people will believe it. Planned Parenthood does not provide health care, mammograms. They provide the killing of babies. So we don't want just morsels. We want the whole loaf. The whole loaf, meaning all of Planned Parenthood to be defunded. We want that now.
I just want to say we found out today that today is a new holiday in the District of Columbia. It's called Emancipation Day, and it celebrates the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862. And if you know anything about history, you know that that proclamation did not free any slaves immediately. It only freed slaves which were in the territories that were in rebellion, which the federal government had no power over at that time. But only 3 years later, every single slave in the United States was a free man. Well, yesterday we got kind of an Emancipation Proclamation, a crumb, if you will, from Congress, the defunding of abortions in Washington, D.C., a very minor, tiny thing. We will have our abolition of abortion. Just like 160 years ago we had our abolition of slavery. It will happen. We're not going to rest until it does happen. This crumb today, that's just symbolic. It's nice, but it's just symbolic. We're not going to stop until this whole disgusting abortion mess is defunded and then ends. Mark my words.
Friends, I want to talk to you today about what we're talking about when we talk the life issues. There's some talk that we sometimes throw around about the funding of abortions. Then, of course, there's the abortions themselves, and then there's the education issues. And when it comes to Planned Parenthood, you have to recognize that Planned Parenthood is involved in all aspects of our lives. They go into our school systems, and they're the ones who are teaching sex to our children as young as 10, 11 years old. To them, any time is okay to teach sex, because their philosophy is our kids are going to do it anyway, so why not teach them everything they need to know? And why not give them condoms? And why not allow them to have abortions when they get pregnant. Now, you as parents have to decide, is that something you want for your kids? If we want sex education in our schools because we feel like we can't handle it ourselves, I think that kind of says something about our society and ourselves as parents. If we're that pitiful that we can't even have this conversation with our own children, encouraging them to make the right decisions when it comes to sex, not the right decisions when it comes to their babies, I'd say we failed as parents. So we need to do everything we can to stand against organizations like Planned Parenthood. When they want to come into our schools, we need to say no, because they're going to give our children education on sex, and they're going to give them condoms, and of course, when those condoms fail, they're going to give them abortions. The funding of Planned Parenthood is not an issue that directly concerns itself with the abortions that Planned Parenthood provides. We know they provide abortions, but it's not something that's federally funded. They make a profit on their abortions, and wherever there is an insurance policy that will cover it, of course, they'll take that as well. But again, they make a profit from their abortions. I know people say they're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we can argue that all day long. In the end, they make money from it, and that money goes to fund whatever it is they're doing. Planned Parenthood is an organization that we need to stand up against, not just because they do abortions. We need to stand up against them because they do everything against what we believe. Do we believe that our children should be in our care, that their education should be something that we're involved with, not some other organization, not somebody who comes to our school systems? If we believe that, then we have to take charge. Let's kick Planned Parenthood out of our school systems. Let's stop the funding, the federal funding of them, and let's do everything we can to look at the organizations that support Planned Parenthood, because there are plenty of organizations that provide funding for them. They make $350 million a year taxpayer funded. Another $350 million a year is donated to them in the various areas. And then, of course, they make another $350 million or so a year with their general business of providing abortions and whatever other services, which are not women's health care services. So they're a billion-dollar organization. It's time to stand up against that behemoth. Do all you can. Get involved. Find out your local pro-life event that's happening in your area and ask them how you can help. Go to prolifeunity.com. Look at our volunteer form. Click on that. If we can help direct you to people who can help you get involved, then we'll do that. But you need to get involved. We all need to get involved. It's a personal responsibility that we have to end this horrible tragedy that's happening around this country. In America alone, you're talking 3,500 people per day that are being killed by their mothers. The mothers are going to suffer from this, no doubt about it. And of course, their children will never see the light of day. Am I doing all I can do? I pray every day I am. And I pray that you get involved and also stand for the defenseless.
Out of 3,500 abortions each day in the United States, 910 of them are from Planned Parenthood. And if you think of each abortion, that is about $300 to $500, and do the math, that's a lot of money. And multiply 910 times 365 days a year, or maybe even 300 days a year, it's still a lot of money that they make. Planned Parenthood does not need federal funding in order to survive, just like NPR does not need funding from the government either. So we need to defund Planned Parenthood, plain and simple. We want the whole loaf and nothing but the whole loaf. We don't want morsels and little promises and votes in name only. We want to defund Planned Parenthood, the whole loaf.
The picture behind me is what the truth of abortion is. Abortion is the killing of a baby, an innocent human being inside the womb. You can't clean it up. You can't make it look nice. It is what it is. When people see the pictures of abortion and they get horrified by them, well, they should be. And they should be horrified enough to want to do something about it. We can't just be horrified and get to the point where we say, well, let's not see the signs. Let's hide the signs. We don't want to show those. Our church shouldn't see those. Our people shouldn't see those. Our children shouldn't see those. This is abortion.
Hi, I'm Rachel, Vice President of Pro-Life Unity, and behind me you see this very brutal picture of what abortion looks like, and it's not a good picture. It's not happy. It's nothing we want to look at. In fact, we often want to gaze away. We would like to run away from this atrocity that's known as abortion. Today is now official Emancipation Proclamation Day. We celebrate the freedom of slaves. Unfortunately, there are little babies in the womb that are not free. They are captive to what's known as abortion. And so I hope, just as Martin Luther King said, free at last, that we will have that day for the babies where they can say that they are free at last. Free to live, free to be born, free to enjoy life, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you.
After World War II, the Allies took the Germans into Dachau and Auschwitz and all of the other concentration camps, and they showed them the truth of what was being done to the Jews and to the undesirables in Germany. This is the truth of abortion. We can't hide from it. It's reality. We need to face it. We need to end it. Behind me and behind the sign is the United States Capitol. These folks in that building can make a difference about this. They can create a law that defends human beings. We often talk about, the human rights issues in '64 when we were talking about what was going on with the blacks in America and how their civil rights had to be stood up for. Well, here's a chance to stand up for the civil rights of the unborn. They have a right to live. Demand from our representatives. Every month, you can call them and demand an end to abortion. You can go to callforlife.us, monthlycallforlife.com, and get involved.